You're listening to the HUD Podcast, the official podcast for the Hudsonian newspaper at Hudson Valley Community College. An HVCC podcast for the students, by the students. Your news now. Get ready to enter the HUD. Hey everybody, welcome to the first episode of the HUD Podcast. My name's Nolan Cleary. I'm the managing editor for the Hudsonian, and I'm going to be your host for this new series. The HUD is the official podcast for the Hudsonian newspaper at Hudson Valley Community College, a newspaper which came third in a contest for best two-year college newspaper in the nation 2 years in a row, and recently won an Apple Award. Here at the HUD, we want to make the show about you. We'll be talking about the biggest stories on campus that affect you, the student. Additionally, we'll be talking to people that can help give you advice that can help you navigate on campus and succeed, especially in these stressful times. There's no doubt we're living in an era of uncertainty, especially for college students who have to adapt to a brand new way of learning. But our goal is to help you make sense of it all. You know, one of the things I always loved about the Hudsonian is that any student can join and you can get paid for it. Today we're going to be talking to someone who's going to explain how the Hudsonian works and how you can join safely and easily while also getting paid. And joining us today we have the club advisor for the Hudsonian, Professor Rachel Bourne. She's going to tell us how you can join the Hudsonian and get paid. Rachel, thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Nolan. I'm glad to be on your podcast. I'm really excited.
So, Rachel, if you would, explain to people who may be listening who are new to Hudson Valley, what is the Hudsonian and what does the Hudsonian do?
Well, the Hudsonian is the student newspaper, although we've expanded certainly this semester into being a news organization because not only are we planning on printing paper, but we're distributing news online through social media and through the podcast. You know, the Hudsonian has been an active club at Hudson Valley since the beginning of Hudson Valley in the 1950s. It's the longest running club on campus. They have a proud tradition of delivering news, and I've been advisor for the Hudsonian for 15 years, and I'm proud to say that the club is continuing this tradition even in the age of the coronavirus.
So you've been working at the Hudsonian for quite a while. What's attracted you to the paper for all these years?
Well, I teach the journalism classes at Hudson Valley, and I really believe that journalism is a very important part of our society. Likewise, the student newspaper, delivering information to students is essential. Over the years, there's been a number of stories that the Hudsonian has covered that I don't think it wouldn't have been information that got into students' hands if it weren't for the paper. And I very much like supporting that dissemination of information. But most importantly, I really like that the Hudsonian gives so many students a home, if you will, on our campus. Over the years, Hudsonian students have become really good friends and not just colleagues with each other, and it's provided a number of opportunities for students that I don't think otherwise would have been there for them. Meeting friends, writing experience, photography experience, travel experience, and just good life experience. And I'm really, really proud to be supportive of that every year.
Now, the Hudsonian has received some accolades in the past. Do you want to explain to people what some of those accolades are?
Sure. So something that the Hudsonian participates in every semester is attendance at the National College Media Association Conference. This is a conference attended by newspapers or so I should say college newspapers from around the nation. And one aspect of that conference is the newspaper competition. And the Hudsonian has entered that competition every year that we've attended. And I'd say it's probably about, we're 14, maybe 15 years now that we've been attending that conference. And the Hudsonian has placed numerous times in the nation. We've placed ninth a few times, and our best placement has been third in the nation in the 2-year school category, which I think is it's remarkable, and I know the college is really proud of that. Our students have been proud of that. You know, if I can just add to that, most community colleges do not have a student newspaper, let alone one that publishes every week like the Hudsonian has done for years and years now. And that in itself is accomplishment, let alone being recognized as some of the best work around the nation. So Hudsonian is a proud tradition, and we'd like to keep that alive.
So I'm sure a lot of people right now are listening and wondering, you know, how do I join? Can you explain to people how you join the Hudsonian?
Sure. Joining the Hudsonian is really, really easy. So the best thing I would say to do if you're sitting and listening and you say, hey, I want to be a member of the Hudsonian, is send an email to hudsonian@hvcc.edu. Write in the email that you're interested in joining, and next thing you know, you're going to have an editor contact you. Be invited to one of our weekly meetings, which is also an option. If you're not sure that you want to join, you don't want to just send that email. The Hudsonian meets every Monday at 2 o'clock. Right now we're having Zoom meetings. You can go to our website to get information on how to join the meeting, and come in and listen. And it's up to you really how involved you'd like to be. Sometimes we have students that join and they just want to write one article, and that might be all they do. Or we have students that take a few photos. We have other students that are more involved. Maybe they take an article every week, and they are really participatory in Hudsonian business on a regular basis. And then, of course, we also have students that really want to be involved, and they might go beyond just writing or covering news with photos, and they might join our editorial staff. And then they would be working at not only news, but then some of the business of the paper that goes on behind the scenes as well.
Now, you can actually earn a few dollars by working for the Hudsonian. How do you do that?
Yes, about 10 years ago, we instituted a compensation system for students. We really see it as an important service that the paper provides campus, and students have the ability to get paid. Getting paid is pretty easy. You just need to fill out important tax forms, and then there's payment every time you write something or any time that you have a photo published. There is a little complication. Students are not allowed to get paid more than what they are paying in their tuition. The college is really considering it tuition reimbursement now. And so it will be important to speak with me or someone in Student Activities office to make sure you understand your eligibility to receive compensation.
What are some of the requirements to join the Hudsonian?
There's only one requirement to join the Hudsonian. You have to be a student. So take at least one class at Hudson Valley, and then you are eligible to join the club. Well, I guess that's not necessarily true. You also have to have that 2.0 GPA, which is a requirement that the college has to participate in any extracurricular activity, which would be clubs or sports.
What you're saying is that it's super easy to join.
Very, very easy to join. Yeah, just reach out and tell somebody you'd like to participate.
All right. So what if someone wants to join, but they're not really into writing and they're not really into taking pictures. Is there another option? Like, is there something else that they can take?
Yeah, actually, well, we have podcasts going now, Nolan, so somebody could help out with that. But we also have some other jobs behind the scenes. You know, the paper does have quite a sizable budget, and so we do have a business manager, so somebody that might prefer the behind the scenes crunching numbers, handling payroll, and looking over the budget. Also, if somebody's interested in layout and design, digital design, our layout person is essential to make sure that our news looks nice when it gets printed, as well as working on the website. You know, maybe you're into social media. Maybe you would really like to run social media account. You know, we're always looking for someone to handle our Instagram, our Twitter, our Facebook page. So those are some of the jobs that the paper has that aren't just writing stories or taking photos.
Now, in addition to compensation, what are some other perks of the Hudsonian, of joining the Hudsonian?
Well, the best perks that I think is the experience that the Hudsonian provides. So many students over the years have told me, you know, I thought this was just going to be writing a news story, but I ended up learning so much about and kind of fill in the blank. And sometimes it's what the news story is about that you suddenly learn a lot about whatever topic you happen to be covering. Or other people say, I've learned so much about the college, or I've been able to meet so many people that I didn't think I'd ever have the opportunity to meet. So the experience that you get, that is kind of like the secondhand experience that isn't the obvious reporting exists there. Friendships, that's another thing. Support. A lot of students feel like belong to campus more. That's also incredibly important for keeping your schoolwork up. You know, students that really feel comfortable on campus, they like it, they've got friends, they're usually better students. So, you know, I dare say that better grades are a little bit of a perk for joining the Hudsonian too, in a lot of instances. Obviously, compensation. And by all means, if you're thinking about going into journalism or perhaps public relations, one of the things that is always asked when you go to an interview, even an interview for an internship, you know, have you written for your school paper? Do you have experience? You know, so the Hudsonian is able to fill your resume and for you to be able to have hey, look, this is what I did. You have a byline to show off. So there's a number of ways that Hudsonian offers perks for students.
Now you were talking a little bit about the editorial staff. How does one join the editorial staff?
Well, the Hudsonian, like any other organization, has a constitution that sets up how positions come to be. Our editorial positions are elected positions, and so the Hudsonian would have elections to fill any vacant spots. So it would be a matter of kind of announcing, hey, I'd like to have the layout editor position or the business manager position. And then the next time we have elections, then usually we have talk about their expertise going into that particular position, and then there's a vote. Sometimes our editorial positions are very competitive, and sometimes we're only have one person running. So, you know, put in a little bit of time, write an article, get to know some of the staff, and then run for an editorial position.
And as of the current moment, what are some of the open positions that a student can run for as of the time this episode is out?
I think there's a number of positions, you know, this being the beginning of the school year. We've got layout editor position is open. Our creative page editor, our sports editor page is open. We're looking for a business manager.
Well, and our news and copy?
I think our
Right,
copy editor we're looking for, right?
right. And I think news too. We're also looking for news.
Look, there you go.
There we go. All right. So just wanted to check in on that. Now, with the COVID-19 pandemic, a lot of people are more concerned about gathering in public. Do students have to show up in person to join the Hudsonian, or is there a virtual way they can work on the Hudsonian from home?
Oh, you can definitely work virtually on the Hudsonian, and that's always been the case even before the coronavirus. It's very easy for you to take a story assignment. You can write it. The students submit their work online. And as far as meetings go, we're not meeting in person right now either, so those would be Zoom meetings. So it's totally possible to be a very active member right from your own home.
Hmm. You know, one of my favorite memories from the Hudsonian was when I was in New Hampshire, and the Hudsonian was on the press list to meet Tulsi Gabbard, the congresswoman and presidential candidate, and I was about to interview her, and there were reporters there from The Guardian and the New York Times, and they were both on the press list as well, but Tulsi Gabbard's press secretary actually insisted that we go first, that we go before The Guardian and the New York Times. So I always like to say, if you ever have any doubts, remember that a congresswoman and presidential candidate put the Hudsonian before The Guardian and the New York Times.
That's a great story, Nolan. I love that story too. You know what? The Hudsonian has interviewed Senator Chuck Schumer, and the Hudsonian has interviewed President Barack Obama.
Yeah. Are there any memories, you know, kind of like that you have from working at the Hudsonian all the years you have?
Other than those, a really memorable time we had was a couple years ago. A Hudsonian staff went to New York City for the CMA conference, and we went to see The Network on Broadway starring Bryan Cranston. And after the show, we met Bryan Cranston, and we had about 45 minutes meeting with Bryan Cranston, and students were asking him questions, and he was asking us questions, and it was a great time, very memorable. The best thing for me was how my students they had a great time. They really remembered that, and Bryan Cranston was a great guy too.
Mm. I remember seeing those pictures on the desktop in the office. So one last question: who should students ask if they have any additional questions that weren't answered on today's podcast?
Well, of course, students can reach out to me. You can email me at r.bourne, that's BORNN, at hvcc.edu. I'm happy to answer any questions, but you can just contact the Hudsonian directly at their email at hudsonian@hvcc.edu.
All right, well, that about wraps it up. Rachel, thank you again for joining me.
Thank you, Nolan. Great job.
Thank you. All right, folks, thanks again for listening. Make sure to tune in for next week's episode when we talk to Student Senate President Reese Harrison about how you can access essential services during the COVID-19 pandemic. To read more about the following stories, make sure to head over to thehudsonian.org for the latest on-campus news from the Hudsonian, and make sure to listen to new episodes of The Hud every Monday.